We finished the top section on page Hey. There's certain nuances which I'd like to go back on and point them out. And thus we'll start 2 lines, the second line from the bottom are the wide lines on that section. We finished saying that the sechel that is mislabish in other functions, in other koiches, such as kechatnua, or even in midas, this is not the real mahus sechel. This is not the essence of sechel. Masha'enke b'moyach shebarosh, whereas in the moyach in the head, hari hasechel mislabish b'choimer hamoyach mamash. There the sechel is imbued in the chochmah hamayach, in the actual material of the mayach, not in the sensitivity of the mayach, but in the mayach itself. Umislabish boy, and thus in the mayach is mislabish mahus ve'atzmus sechel. The very truth of the sechel itself, the reality of sechel. Lahaskil called dar sechel b'chochmah. Whereby he is, and the purpose of it, what is the aim of it? Lahaskil, simply to conceptualize all inyanim of sechel and chochmah. What is the significance of lahaskil called var sechel v'chochmah? In other words, he's become a wise person, a learned person, and that is the pshat is mislabish b'moyach shebarosh. The principle in this is that the essence of the human life is in that sechel, in that comprehension. As mentioned many times, the human being cannot live merely because of the fact that there is something that you touch in the world itself. Things have to have a sense, have to have a meaning. And this meaning, this is what gives the human being a sense of being. It makes sense that I'm here. It makes sense that there is a world. It makes sense to function in it, because there is a sechel to it. That sechel is mislabish in the moyach shebalosh. Therefore, in the moyach, this is where the person, the human being, senses the value and the meaning of his being in the world. It's not a function. It is the identity of his presence. This is where the sechel is mislabish, the Etzem ha-sechel mislabish in a person. The chayas in the person is from the nefesh. The nefesh cannot be mechaya the person directly in the guf, because it is completely in a different reality. In order to be mechaya the person in the guf, it has to go to the koiches ha-nefesh. The upper koiches is rotzen and oneg, which we discussed, we're still going to discuss. And the functioning koiches starts from sechel and chochmah. From sechel. We briefly had the chance to discuss, it's mentioned here, and then we have the principle, the difference between brim shebiyabosha and brim shebiyam. Brim shebiyam, their existence is based entirely on the yam. They're only aware of the yam. They're not even aware of their own presence. As we said many times, they don't stand on their own recognizance, on their own koiches, on their own self-recognition. They're constantly lying in the water. They're always in bed. Rebbe Abosha are a completely different breed. They stand on their own. In order to stand on your own, you have to have a self-cognizance. You have to identify yourself, recognize who you are and where you are. That, in the human being, have in the animals as well, but in a totally different level, is in the sechel. Therefore, the very identity, the very presence of the human being begins in the sechel. Yes, I'm here, I'm for real. That sechel is not a secondary sechel. In other words, I am to understand how I get from place to place. It is to know who I am. Identify my very presence, my very reality. That means the Etzem sechel is slavish in the moshiach shebanoish, and he senses that yes, I'm for real. I'm real for here. This is the mahus sechel is slavish in moshiach shebanoish. Let's continue. V'hainu, and that is, how does that happen? That sechel, chochmah, is slavish in a moshiach, in a physical thing. Li yoisoi keli horoi, due to the fact that it is a keli horoi that is suited the oil hasechel, to the oil of sechel. All of a sudden, sechel becomes oil. What is the significance of this? Horoi le'oil hasechel. Oil, even in the physical sense that we have experienced oil, and we explained many times, we should discount completely the presentation of light as being energy emanating from the heat and from combustion in the sun. Oil is light. It's really a godly creation. It's in stark contrast to darkness. Light, as it emanates from the sun in terms of energy, is not in counter to darkness. It does not do away with darkness. It just illuminates the darkness, while the darkness stays put. Oir, the real oil, the oil and you're going to be this is light. This is a new creation. This brought into the world a completely different sense of reality. And it's referred to as oil. The reason it's referred to as oil because oil is that which is the intangible reality that you can experience in the world. Otherwise, in the world, everything is tangible. In other words, everything has a direct effect by its physical presence. Whatever degree of physicality, but still there is a physical element in it. Oil does not have a physical effect, despite the fact that it illuminates the entire presence. But it has a completely different reality.
Why are we switching from koyach?
Oh, no, wait a second. We just finished saying that sechel is that which gives a person a sense of his own reality. Now, please understand, this is imperative that we understand, even though it's subtle. Physicality is not real. Yes, it's very real to the touch. But that's only a reaction. Like we said many times, the person hits his hand and it hurts. Is that give him a real sense? Yes, there is a table over here. No, there's a hard matter. Doesn't bring him into the reality of the world. What is reality? Let's take a simple illustration that we've used many times. Many illustrations that we've used many times. Take the one that is recurring. If you have a guest and a host, and the host invited the guest to come and join him for lunch, and we all sense that somehow the lunch is a very tangible gift, and the guest can enjoy the lunch. But the real thing is just the presence of the host. Should the host pick up and leave, then he's left with nothing. In other words, this whole lunch, its significance is only, its presence is only the oil of the host. There is a significance to it, and that is what brings it to the human being, not its tangible presence. In other words, the nefesh ha'odam, and then as it translates in sechel, the human being can only acknowledge the presence of something that is real. Something that is just present, but without significance, he can't relate to it. This is called oil ha-sechel. This is oil ha-nefesh, as it translates in the sechel. This is a nefesh element. This is not a guf element. The hand and the foot are not kelim for the oil ha-sechel. They have to be directed. Do it this way, do it that way. The moshiach senses the oil ha-sechel. The moshiach does not need to be hit over the head. Here is what the reality is. It senses its reality directly. Like in the example that you said about the host, you can't hit somebody over the head. Please understand that this is the most important part. There's no way. Either you sense it, either you have the oil, or you don't have the oil. The oil ha-sechel. This is not something that you can teach. This is direct emanation, revelation of nefesh, of the truth of nefesh. The moshiach is miraculously, and then it's sensitive to this intangible reality, to the actual oil ha-nefesh as it is manifest in the sechel. And as a result of that, as we discussed many times yesterday, how you do something, when you do something with self-respect, with respect for the entire, so to speak, human presence, and the arena, the area where that is oil ha-sechel. And if you lose that, then you lose everything. This is really a phenomenal Ayin, that the moshiach should be sensitive to the oil ha-sechel, not to the tangibility of the sechel. Because there's absolutely no way you can explain in any tangible manner, logical manner, what is the presence of the host do for you? Or what is it different does it make whether you eat with a fork and a spoon or you eat with your hands? or for that matter, all the other exclusively human phenomena.
The moshiach is tangible.
What?
Moshiach is tangible.
The moshiach is tangible, and that's the miracle.
And why are we saying that that this moshiach is is relating to the sechel that it contains?
Because what do we say? I mean, what do you say?
What?
I don't understand your question. You want to have a tangible proof of that? There is none. There is none.
What?
This is what we say. Either you have it or you don't have it.
Right. I guess we're saying the moshiach is a complete exception, because elsewhere by all the other koiches and all the other
sechel, yeah, all other koiches on a much lower level. No, this is the life of nefesh itself. Sechel, this is the nefesh.
Why do we have to say moshiach is life of the nefesh itself? Why not say it's the kuli for sechel, for life of the nefesh?
Yeah, it is a kuli, but in this kuli, there is the essential life itself. No, moshiach is not the life. Moshiach does not provide the life. It is a nefesh that mislavish in the moshiach. But the moshiach is a proper receptacle for it. Not just for its functionality, but for its very essence, mahus. The moshiach, because it's a keli horoi le'oir hasechel. Here's where the oir hasechel is significant. Only the oir hasechel, not the force of the sechel. The oir, simply saying, here's what the reality is. Therefore, therefore the sechel can be mislabish in the moshiach and completely reveal itself misached boy, and it unites with the moshiach. Because the moshiach.
So are we saying that the moshiach is a kind for the oira cycle, but not for the cycle itself?
Well, if you look carefully in the words, he says like this: the moshiach is a keli for the oira sechel, and this is why the sechel is misached. The sechel finds a home in the moshiach because the moshiach appreciates sechel. From what angle, from what level? He appreciates the oira sechel, the reality that sechel stands for, not for the tangibility. In other words, sechel presents all kinds of, like I say, 1 and 1 equals 2 ones. It's also sechel. But that's not the moshiach. That's not exclusively a moshiach thing. It's not sechel. The sechel is misached in the moshiach because this moshiach recognizes the truth of the sechel.
It's misached. Everywhere else we have mislabesh boy. Here it's misached. This unification of something that is.
The lower koiches is also misached the deire boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Etzem and Husa koyach. But it's a completely different level. Oir is in sechel. The koyach hatnua is not oir. There is also, it's relative to banging a hammer, it's oir. But it's not oir, it's a different kind of oir. It's a reflective oir.
But before you said, in the slavish born, the hate for Atzmus or sechel. If the hate for Atzmus or sechel is in the moshiach, why do we need the oir? The oir is in the afterwards of the Etzem.
Because the Etzem HaSeichel is really a koyach HaNefesh. And therefore it is very discriminant where it will go, where it will be, what it will relate to. And ultimately, the principle in this is, in order to be a receptacle for the nefesh, you have to be totally bottled to the nefesh. And one of the principles of beetle is that it's enough that you have the oil on nefesh. You don't have to be hanged up, hit over the head to do it. You're sensitive to the oil, to the message. This is what enables the nefesh to be with you, to be there. This is why because the moshiach is totally bottled to the inyan ha-nefesh, to the oil ha-sechel. That's why the sechel can be mislabish in it. Sechel is a koyach ha-nefesh. Every other koyach, you talk about koyach ha'alicha, walking, it has a definitive function. Sechel does not have a definitive function. Sechel is the ability to conceptualize reality. That is a completely different world. Sight versus touch. Touch is compelling. I touch it. I know it from my own experience that this is there. Sight, you don't have an experience. Nothing forces itself upon you. The only reason that you acquiesce to sight is because you can relate to the truth that sight tells you. This is what substantiates it. Not that you personally are affected by it. You can close your eyes and be completely oblivious to it. The reason sight is so compelling, so to speak, so real, is not because of the act and the physical aspect of sight. It's because sight is talking to you from a different angle. The oyer is telling you there's a reality here, not a tangible thing. When you look at something, this is what we say, the dog sees the wall and it only projects what the wall will feel like. A human being does not. A human being thinks of the reality of it. Even greater than the wall, the house, and all the truth that it represents. This is called oyer. All right. Yeah. Okay. והנה הסיבה מה שהדברים פועלים בהכוחויס. The tzibah, the cause of the fact that the Yevorim have an effect on the koiches. What is the effect of the Yevorim on the koiches? Is sheboyim behagshoma kefi mehuz ho'yevorim. That the koiches come down and they represent and they manifest themselves behagshoma in a physicalized level. Kefi mahuz ho'yevorim, suitable to the mahuz ho'yevorim, to the reality of them evorim. Ukmoi, as for example, shehasechel yaskil haskola gashmis. In addition to the essence of sechel, that he knows it's in the yaskil haskolas amukis and knowledge, there is also the that he can understand haskola gashmis. The gashmis they can haskola. For example, if you want to have a table, and a table consists of a board, that's the essential thing why you have it on a table. Now you have to make it stand. You can project. You don't have to test it out. You can project that if you put two stilts under the board, it'll stand. With haskola gashmis. How does he come to relate and to project a gashmisike phenomenon? And then in the keyach horiyah inside, yira dover gashmi. He will actually see a physical entity. She'ein zeh mehakoiches mitzad Atzmus. This is a phenomenon that is not from the koiches in and of themselves. This is all leading to the initial question, the fact that the Yevorim have an effect on the koiches. And that we have to understand how that happened. This Indian that you could see at Dover Gashmi is not, which is not me'akoiches on the Amatzad Atzmus. Therefore, there is a phenomenal thing. How do the Yevorim have that effect? That the sechel should be able to relate to Dover Gashmi. The Harei, since that, HaSeichel Shebin Neshama Mitzad Atzmo, the Seichel that is in the Neshama itself, Hu Rak Lahaskil Binyonim Ruchniyim. The way the Seichel is in the Neshama itself, now is the reality of the Seichel. As it is in the Neshama, it is exclusively Lahaskil Binyonim Ruchniyim. It is exclusively to conceptualize in Ruchni Kinyonim. Because that's in the Neshama reality. Where does the neshama have an identity, a relationship to Gashmis? That its sechel should be able to understand over Gashmis. Ve'ein lo yishaychus klal lahaskola Gashmis. The sechel that's in the neshama has no shaychus at all, has no relationship to haskola Gashmis. So this we'll have to discuss a little more further. I just want to point out this. Again, going back to our table. The board of the table, that we can relate to because it has a human service. But the board should float when I want it to float. The fact that it does not stand on itself. In other words, it is not real in and of itself. To bring this board, this principle of a table, into the physical world is a whole transition from Haskalah Ruchnis to Haskalah Gashmis, to translate it in Gashmis. That is a different world for the Neshama. And now we have to go to the Neshama world.
Mikol